What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you 5 of my favorite characters in gaming. Now, I want to kick this off by saying that I will be spoiling a bit of the story around these characters just for the sake of talking about them, but in terms of broader plot spoilers for the games that they are in, you're pretty well safe. Outside of the first one we're going to talk about, which is Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, at least the actual game. So if you don't want spoilers for that 18-year-old game, don't listen. But the other 4 entries will just be about the actual character story and not the broader plot. Also, before we dive too deep here, these are in no particular order except number 1. Number 1 I actually do like a bit more than all of the others. But other than that, they are not in any particular order, mostly because I play a ton of RPGs, which are chock full of amazing characters, and as such, it's very hard to rank them. And depending on the day of the week you catch me on, it could very well change. But with no further ado, let's jump straight into it. So, number 5 on our list is Tourette from Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, of course. Now, Tourette is a really interesting character because when you are introduced to her, you don't actually know that you're talking to Tourette because you meet her as either Therese or Jeanette, which it turns out are actually the same person, which is collectively Tourette. And I loved this as a concept as well as just the character overall. Basically, Tourette is a Malkavian vampire who, due to a lifetime of trauma really, has developed 2 personalities. Collectively, they're known as Tourette. But the first time I played this game, I never saw it coming. That said, there's actually a bunch of indicators that this might be the case once you've played it through that second time, but the first time through the game, it's done so well and it comes as such a surprise. And combine that with the honestly just really cool characterization of everyone involved here, winds up making Tourette one of my favorite characters, which I imagine isn't much of a surprise because as far as Vampire the Masquerade goes, the Jeanette part of Tourette is probably the most recognizable figure of Vampire the Masquerade. But moving on to number 4 on the list, we have Camellia from Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. So Camellia is a very interesting character in that she has grown up as a noble, but she is also a shaman, which is someone who communes with spirits in the Pathfinder universe. But more interesting than that, it turns out as you play the game that she is a full-blown serial killer. But what I really like about her character and the presentation was mostly just how it just slowly, incrementally built up to just crazy heights. So when you first meet her, you can immediately tell something is off. Eventually, this leads up to the fact that she's killing people. And then depending on the character that you're playing in game, you can kind of take this many different ways. But if you just kind of roll with it just to see what happens, it goes to some pretty sick and twisted places for nothing other than shock value, if anything. So I really enjoyed her character just because no matter how much I was like, all right, well, let's just see where this goes, it just kept getting worse. So while she is definitely an absolutely terrible person, she's such a memorable character from this game, and I really enjoyed the way it was done, if for nothing more than the shock value. Third on the list, we have Pallegina from Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2. So Pallegina is a godlike, which is a race in the Pillars of Eternity universe. Godlike are beings who have taken on a portion of power from a god, changing their physical appearance mostly to resemble that of the god that gave them the power or the blessing or whatever you want to call it. Well, Pallegina was an avian godlike, and while you can find all sorts of stories about how godlike of various types, etc., are treated throughout the lands of Aora, Pallegina is a bit of a unique case, because if you heard me, I said she was an avian godlike, and while technically she's still a godlike, she's really more human these days, and that is because through the help of an animancer friend, which is a sort of practitioner of soul magic, they were able to cut what is referred to in-game often as a chime, or the thing that makes a person a godlike and connects them to the gods. Thus, she has mostly reverted to a human appearance, whereas previously she was completely covered in feathers as opposed to just the few that she has now. So just that in and of itself makes her stand out from other godlike that you meet. Naturally, she has a lot of feelings and character development that is centered around this, and one of my favorite bits of that is if you take Pallegina with you when you're talking to the gods, it's possible to get into a conversation with Hylia, actually, which is the god that made Pallegina a godlike. But a conversation between Pallegina and Hylia can lead to Hylia basically saying that she did what she did to Pallegina because hers is a song of strength and defiance, and who would she be to silence that? Which I just thought was a really cool line. But Pallegina is a pretty complicated character that I like quite a bit. But number 2 on the list, we have Balthier from Final Fantasy XII. He is an eloquent sky pirate that you meet as you, of course, play the game. He's a playable character. And honestly, the guy just oozes charisma. But as the story unfolds, you find out that there's a lot more to him than that, and that he's actually the son of a major plot character. But before being a sky pirate, he actually served as an imperial judge, which is a vastly different career choice, shall we say. And his disillusionment with that position, as well as his relationship with his main plot-related father, led him to just leaving and becoming a proper sky pirate. And overall, it's just a really cool character that, again, oozes charisma, so what's not to like? But for number 1 on this list, the character that I do actually like a bit more than basically everyone else. So if you've ever wondered why I wrap my videos up with "May you wander in wisdom," or wondered where that came from, it comes from none other than Jahan from Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2. Primarily, we're talking about Divinity Original Sin 1, where we get all of Jahan's backstory. So first of all, Jahan is a demonologist, and by the time Divinity Original Sin 2 rolls around, he's well over 2,000 years old, which might definitely pique your interest, but if you only play Original Sin 2, you won't get the rest of his story. And I actually made a lore video a long time ago using his voice acting in Original Sin 1, where he just straight up tells you the entire thing, voice acted and all, where thousands of years ago, Jahan was a king of a desert kingdom, where he was essentially tricked by a demon to having his life force slowly drained away from him, which turned him on to demonology, until he made a pact with a demon that cured him of his ailment that was killing him, and gave him life for 1,000 years. In Original Sin 1, we catch up with him towards the end of that 1,000 years, at which point he explains that his current quest as a demonologist is to track down the demon he made the deal with, because he knows that if he kills that demon, the magic becomes permanent, which is part of Original Sin 1. That's his character arc. You go kill this demon, thus making Jahan effectively immortal. Overall, very cool. I highly recommend you check out the lore video and just listen to the voice acting, but just a very, very cool character that I have always been very drawn to. But there you guys go, 5 characters from various RPGs that I enjoy a great deal. But that said, there are tons of amazing characters out there, so feel free to tell me down below in the comment section which characters you love, and don't forget to like and subscribe while you're at it. But regardless of any of that, truly, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. As Jahan would say himself, may you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.